right. Welcome to this week's episode of Talkin Folk. Today we're talking about the white buffalo. The white buffalo. Great white buffalo. That's from Hot Tub Time Machine. This is not about Hot Tub Time Machine, although that's really good movies. If you haven't seen it, that's actually a throwback, and I think is kind of underrated in terms of those, what is that, early 2000s comedies? Was it even that early? I don't know. Anyway, that's for our other show about early 2000s comedies that we do. But anyway, we're talking the White Buffalo, the musician, whose actual name is Jake Smith, decided to take on the stage name or moniker of the White Buffalo. So let me play a clip off of his new album, On the Widow's Walk, which we're talking about today, which came out in April. This song is called The Drifter, and we'll play it in the background. I just really like it, and there's a really awesome chorus, and kind of, I don't know if he's like talking about being in a bar as a musician or not really sure, but I wanted to spend some more time on some other songs, but want to listen to this one. So that's The Drifter that's playing. So this, if you haven't heard of the White Buffalo, he's actually been around for a really long time, which I didn't quite realize, to be honest, as I went through and kind of looked at his discography and kind of different releases that he's had and whatnot. And I think the reason that they didn't register for me was because he kind of straddles different genres. He's playing country in some albums. He's got more folk in others. His influences when he was growing up started with country because apparently that's what his parents listened to. But he also in high school and that age listened to punk. So there are some songs, if you go through his library on Spotify, iTunes, whatever, you can find some more heavy rock or punk kind of songs. And actually there is one that I think by the time I'm done with the bio, maybe I'll play a clip of it on this album. But so it's not all just this, kind of southern rock, country, folk kind of vibe. He does sound to me like at least vocally, like Richie Havens maybe. He sounds a little bit like Eddie Vedder in some songs. He definitely sounds like Johnny Cash on other songs. So he's got a lot of influences in kind of a similar genre. Eddie Vedder more so like on the solo side of his career. But in terms of his music and songwriting, he's definitely inspired by the likes of John Prine, which you talked about, and he actually released this album on April 17th, which was, I believe, just a few days after John Prine passed away. And he's influenced by Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Townes Van Zandt. So he's got a lot of influences in the genre that we like to cover on the show, which is why it was kind of cool to go and do a deep dive on this album, and been listening to it a bunch. Actually, the song Problem Solution popped up on our Friday show, what we're listening to, a few weeks back. Probably late April it showed up on there. I really like that song. Don't need to cover it here. Go listen to that if you're interested. We talked about it briefly on there. So his first album came out in 2002, which was called Hog-Tied Like a Rodeo, which I have no idea what that means, but still makes me smirk. This is his 7th studio album. So as I said, this is called On the Widow's Walk. And actually, funny enough, when I saw the name of the album, I was like, I wonder if people know what a widow's walk is. And a widow's walk is a pretty common thing. I'm up here in Boston, and if you're in any of these New England sea towns or spend a lot of time on the Cape or out on the Cape Islands like Nantucket or Martha's Vineyard, all the old homes have widow's walks on the roof. And they quite literally were for potentially a widow. Didn't always know that she would be a widow, but for the wife or most likely the wife of a captain or sailor or whatever to go stand up on the roof of their house and go look out into the ocean to see if there were any ships coming back in, because when whaling and all those things were the industry of New England and the the Cape and the islands and all that, these ships would leave for months at a time. If you ever read Moby Dick, is that actually what it's called, or is it called In the Heart of the Sea? There's a movie too, and I can't remember. But they're gone for months, then they would come back, and sometimes they wouldn't come back. Right, the ships would either sink or they whatever, or just wouldn't return. So that's why they're called Widow's Walks. And the funny thing was that he was driving up on tour up the East Coast, probably in this area somewhere, and asked someone he was riding with, like, why are there all these little platforms or decks on the roof of all these houses? And someone explained to him just what I just did right now. And he then started wrapping his head around it and thinking about all the kind of emotions, which we are going to listen to the actual song Widow's Walk later in the show. And those types of themes are kind of woven through this album. So this album is realistically, a lot of it isn't about him personally, right? Maybe he's got a lot of these feelings that he talks about on here, or has had some of these feelings, like darkness, anger, being disconnected, longing for something. Those are all kind of common themes. Originally, it was going to be a concept album. It sounds like more around the sea and the ocean and bodies of water and sailing and those types of things, which he did still put a few songs on here, but then there are other kind of themes on the album of longing, and what's the other one? Oh, the changing world, kind of of technology, and actually there's one about climate change and the earth kind of changing and all that. So he kind of threaded some other things in there. The album was produced by Shooter Jennings, son of Waylon Jennings, and basically they met and hit it off really well, and then started working together, and actually ended up spending a few weeks together writing songs and recording and whatnot. And he didn't come in with all of these written. He wrote some of them with Shooter, which was pretty cool, including this one, which I'll play just a little bit of, and then we'll get into the first couple of songs that I want to cover today. So this song is called The Rapture. And this song is about kind of being torn between good and bad, and in his words, he kind of says this is as if Mr. Hyde won.
Well, I'll tell you, I got secrets. I know you got yours too, but mine are a little more sinister. Done things I can't undo. I bury all my secrets.
What I love about this album is that there's all these stories that aren't necessarily his, but it's kind of like a John Prine thing to do that we talked about on the episode a month ago or so, whenever John Prine passed away, where he's able to put himself in the shoes of those characters and tell their story, or have a good idea, or maybe weave that in and out as the theme of the song. And so I pulled up a quote, and he says, "I'm able to put myself into the situation of the character, even though that character may not represent my point of view. I try to take it to a human level and keep it as honest as I can."
Till the evil overflows, come to the rapture.
And you can kind of hear on this song how he sounds like an older Johnny Cash.
Here comes the rapture. I lose all control.
The first song that we're really going to deep dive today is called Sycamore, as in the sycamore trees. So this is one, I'm going to do two songs here that are more in that theme of relating to the ocean and longing for something, or maybe missing something, whatever it is. And I'm going to do another one that's kind of a different subject. So this first one is called Sycamore.
I don't see nothing wrong being a dreamer. I've been floating for so long from the shore. The sea, it has its song that it's singing. It's a sad and lonely tune in the blue, and it calls to drifting sailors like me and you. But I cannot understand why I'm longing for the land.
I'll pause it before he goes into the chorus, but he's put himself in some situation where he's out at sea, basically, and is thinking back to his life on land or something of the sort, and it calls to drift in sails like me and you, but I cannot understand why I'm longing for the land. You're going to hear in a second as he thinks about getting back to the land and probably his loved ones, that the song is kind of about getting back to. And I don't know if this is him putting himself in this character, as he started from thinking about, okay, well, what are those widows thinking about on those widows walks, or the wives on those widows walks? And now it's before he's gotten to that moment in the album where he does talk about that. He's thinking about what's the person on the other end thinking about. Is there regret that they're out at sea so far? Are they longing to come home? What are the types of things that can be going through their head? And I absolutely love this chorus right here.
It's the sound of the breeze through the leaves of the sycamore, waiting in the waves to my knees on the sandy shore. The birds and the bees and your panties on the bathroom floor. Well, I miss you more. Well, I miss you more.
So he quickly thinks back to probably, I kind of picture these things as almost little movies that he wrote or episodes of a show or something like that. Of all these songs, or a lot of these songs on this album, kind of have a structure like that, which is kind of cool. You can kind of picture it in your head even without a music video, but you can picture him or this character kind of with that other person on the beach, in the surf, sand flying around everywhere. And then obviously they end up making love.
The sea calls to me again, like it's screaming. Your home is in the water, in the stars, in the chasm of the deep, where they're feeding on the changing, aching cavern of my heart. They know it's her that is tearing us apart. I begin to understand. Oh, I'm longing for the land. And I miss the
What's funny is, so this verse is talking about how the sea's calling back to him. Now, I don't know if that means that he's home or he's still out on the ocean, and it's what's around him, it's what he loves doing. Your home is in the water, in the stars, right? And I think about looking at the water when you're up at night or whatever it is, and you see the stars in it as well. And though it's her that is tearing us apart, and I think that has double meaning in terms of his wife is tearing him away from the sea, and then her is also the ocean, which is tearing him and his wife apart. And he keeps doing the chorus here, which I love. But basically, this is one of those one of those things that if you read some of the history of these whaling towns and the people they would go and disappear for 6 months to go whaling and tour the world, so to speak, and they'd come back and they would miss it, and they would be home, and then they would feel this calling to pull them away, back to wherever they would go, right, to go whaling and fishing and all that. And I think that, I don't know, juxtaposition, or if that's the right word, that pull from both directions is something that's really hard to kind of summarize, and I think he did it really well here. So I like that one, and that song. To me, when I listened to that song in this album the first time, I didn't really think about any of these these songs as maybe historical or anything like that until you really start to think about the context of what he was writing them in. So the next one is called Widow's Walk, and the album is called On the Widow's Walk. And actually the album cover, if you haven't seen it, is his face, painted with the ocean waves crashing behind him. So you can kind of get a nice visual of kind of where his head is at, and I don't think that was his art, but so this is Widow's Walk. I'll stop after the first verse and we could talk about what's going on.
Walking at night up the stairs with a present to the moonlight, just floating like a fizzled out satellite with no aim to her feet.
First off, if you listen to the musical differences between these two songs, I love how they sound very different, and they aren't next to each other on the album. There's a few songs in between them, but very different sound, which the majority of this album sounds really different. I don't think there's really two songs that sound exactly alike, I like that because it has its moments throughout the album where it kind of ebbs and flows in terms of tempo and whether it's really somber or kind of high points, or you got the Rapture, which we played before, which was pretty heavy rock. But kind of picture what's going on here, right? So, she goes walking at night up the stairs with her prayers into the moonlight. So start thinking about that wife or potential widow. The way that you would get to a widow's walk in these old New England homes would be you would go however many. Typically, these homes in these towns are like 3-story homes. You would go to the third story. And then from the third story, there would be a ladder or a really narrow staircase of some sort to get you up a hatch onto the roof. I've climbed one myself, and it's actually pretty. I'm not good with heights, so I'll just say that. And you're up there, and you're pretty exposed. So she goes up there, and obviously her prayers are taking her up into the moonlight, hoping she sees something. She's floating like a fizzled out satellite with no aim to her feet. And if you've ever been in a situation where you're trying to distract yourself or whatever, and you're just pacing with no kind of goal or target that you're walking towards, it's exactly what I picture her doing right now.
She gets lost in a fall, pacing like a zombie on the widow's wall. The wind it screams, but the ghosts don't talk. Her eyes glassed on the sea, singing ah.
He gives this creepy and you can kind of feel like it's almost a little bit surreal or spooky. I really like that.
Well, he goes walking at night on the bow in the calm of the haunting light. Looks like the black of the water's got an appetite, calling him to the deep. And he's been talking in his sleep, saying things dreams in the morning that he can't repeat. Dreams of death in a drowning epiphany. And he starts to weep, singing,
I'll pause it there. So now he's doing a similar thing to what he did in the last song, but he's got it with a different kind of different subject. He has the wife on one side of the story and the husband presumably on the other side of the story, and now he's out walking at night and he's on the bow of this boat and it's calm and there's probably haunting moonlight or whatever. Looks like the black of the water's got an appetite calling him to the deep, whether that's in his head or he's just staring into the darkness of the ocean. Take that for what it may be. And he's been talking. This is the part that I really like. And if you think about these sailors and how they were all superstitious, they all believed in magic, ghosts, all these things. And he's been talking in his sleep, saying things in the morning that he can't repeat, dreams of death in a drowning epiphany, and he starts to weep, singing, and then it's I won't do it. But that's kind of the chorus of the song that kind of links it all together. So he's having nightmares about dying and something happening to the ship, but he can't say it out loud because that'll be, bad luck or whatever. He doesn't want to say this to other people around him on the ship to freak them all out. And I love that little prelude or whatever you want to call it to what's about to happen here. So, the one thing I forgot to mention, which is probably important, is if you were somebody who at the time, let's just say he's putting this as the setting in the 1800s, 1700s, 1800s, whatever it was, a long time ago. If you had a widow's walk, that probably means that you had some money to build a pretty tall house up on the hill in a whaling town of some sort, meaning you were a captain. So when it says the sky explodes, the sea it roars, the crashing of the waves, it's probably him dealing with this right now as someone captaining the ship. The howling wind, it stings his skin. The blinding of the rain. So now you picture him holding onto this wheel, the ship's wheel, for dear life, with the wind stinging his skin, and he's blind from the rain. And now,
he goes overboard, towed into the grave, face down he floats away.
So he got thrown overboard, and now she's still back at her widow's walk.
To the moonlight, she's floating like a fizzled out satellite, with no aim to her feet, singing
Not a really happy song, obviously, but I do love how he just told a story like that and took on something that was, basically something you would read in a novel and put it into a song form, and was very descriptive in doing it and made it just as haunting as it needed to be, and captured her feelings, his feelings all at once. It's really well done. All right. So the last song we're going to cover from the same album is called Cursive. Now, this song, according to the release notes for this album, is apparently Jake Smith's favorite. So I don't know what that's going to tell you. Maybe he's just somebody who, doesn't want the world to slip away, so to speak. You'll hear what I'm talking about in a second. But I really like this song, and I think it's become my favorite. It's either that or Widow's Walk. Although I like the Drifter too that we played at the beginning because of the alcohol lines. Anyway, so Cursive is basically about technology in the world changing and people losing touch or losing sight of the things that are really important. So we'll let it play, and we'll stop along the way, obviously, and you can hear it for yourself.
When they stop writing in cursive, I don't know what I'll do. I'll handwrite my name on a sign and hold it up high on the avenue.
It's funny because I don't know how people feel about cursive anymore. I don't even consider the fact that do people still write in cursive? I don't know. That doesn't really matter. But it's he's basically talking about, maybe it's from the perspective of an older person or maybe it's from his perspective. I'm not really sure. But when they stop writing in cursive, I don't know what I'll do. I'll handwrite my name on a sign and I'll hold it up on the avenue. And the song title is Cursive, and the rest of the song doesn't really touch on this again, but I think that's his way of saying you should care about the things that are going away. Cursive is something that's gone away, and then the rest of those are similar themes, which is different subjects.
And if we don't get lost in the stars, I don't know what I'll do. I'll glue my face to the phone. I won't look up no more like the other fool.
And if we don't get lost in the stars, basically, if we're not looking up from our phones anymore, I won't look up no more like all the other fools. Like the other fools is what he says. But like everybody else, he'll do that. But what I like the most about this song is this chorus, and then at the end of the song, the same chorus, which is slightly different. So we'll play this one right here.
Oh, the days gone by, how the time it flies, and I'll try to hold on tight.
So, oh, the days gone by, how the time it flies, and I'll try to hold on tight. So he's still in the place where he's trying to hold on to these fleeting moments, basically, and before they disappear from society or whatever, he still feels like it's something worth holding on to.
I hope the day don't come when there's no more love, when we don't look each other in the eyes. I think I'll die.
I love how he goes so extreme there. When we don't look each other in the eyes, I think I'll die. And you'll hear that again in the song a couple of times. But basically, is there anything worth living if we're not connecting, person to person? And he goes through two more verses here that are like that. So I'll let those play all the way through.
And if we stop touching each other, please Please tell me what will be. We'll be just like the drones, together yet alone in captivity. And when songs quit breaking our hearts, I don't know what I'll do. I'll place my heart at your feet and drop to my knees and tear it in two.
He doesn't want people to stop interacting with each other or loving each other or even having broken hearts. And when songs quit breaking our hearts, I don't know what I'll do. I'll place my heart at your feet and I'll drop to my knees and tear it in two. Like, why is a heart even worth having if we're not going to love someone or at least let it break? And now he's going to do the second part to the same chorus, or the reflection of it, which I love, kind of the mirror images of each other.
Oh, the days gone by, I think we're out of time, and I'll try to hold on tight, and I hope the day don't.
So it's pretty subtle between the two, but there's just a one-line difference where he says, "Oh, the days gone by," same in each one. In the first one, he says, "How the time it flies." But the second one, he says, "I think we're out of time, and I'll try to hold on tight." So basically, he's resigning to the fact that it's over. He's already giving up, and now he keeps going, "I think I'll die, I'll die, I'll die."
I'll die.
So this whole album is pretty dark, for the most part, and you probably just could tell from those 5 songs that we just went through. We really talked about 3 of them. I personally really like it because it's not just about I guess, he's talking about heartbreak and love in this song, but he's also putting himself in different characters, right? He's got the Widow's Walk sailor or captain and his wife on the Widow's Walk itself. There's something about humanity. He's got the song here about the changing technology and how people are getting less and less personal with each other. So it's all kinds of different themes that he puts himself in and puts the listener through. So I really like it. That was The White Buffalo on the Widow's Walk, released April 17th, 2020 this year. That's an episode. If you like what we're doing, please follow us, rate us, review us. We like feedback. We like artist suggestions. So whatever you got, send it our way. We also have playlists out on Spotify. One called The Music of Talkin Folk. The other, What We're Listening To, which is for our Friday show. And we will see you next time.